Hello, it's Bailey O'Brien, and I'm not sure if that's thunder or not. Um, but I was going to do this live from my office, but the internet stopped working. So I'm here in my backyard and just wondering if you have any kinds of questions about Square One or anything about cancer in general, anything about health. I know it's a mid Saturday afternoon. Um, so just go ahead and ask me anything. I know Terry, you had a question. If you could just post your comment in the comments section, then I could answer that for you. Um, Otherwise, I could start talking about what I was researching this week. I have a friend who has stage 4 bladder cancer, and his story is really amazing. I just think his story has gotten me thinking about the differences that people have genetically and mutation-wise, because some people respond well to certain treatments, while someone with the same type of cancer can respond differently. There are things in general that people in cancers have in common, like a healthy diet is going to help a person rather than hurt a person, but specifics about the diet will be different for each person. And this can be illustrated by the Gonzalez protocol with an individualized diet protocol, and different juicing and protomorphogen supplements, different glandular supplements that are recommended for people on an individual basis. So my friend has, who I mentioned before, he has stage 4 bladder cancer, and he was following a high carbohydrate diet, but he started to feel really sick, and he was thinking that he would get a cancer diagnosis. And he was on this diet because I believe because his mom had just dealt with cancer herself, and unfortunately she lost her battle. But anyway, he felt ill on this high carbohydrate diet, meaning like lots of vegetables and juicing, I believe. And then he had scans and it found out that he had stage 4 cancer. And so he changed his diet. He ended up changing his diet. He started his own protocol based on his own research. He added metformin. He started taking that drug, which is typically used for diabetes, to help draw sugar out of the blood into the cells. And then also high-dose vitamin C. He was giving himself intravenous vitamin C, which neither of us would recommend for most people. And taking aspirin because his research led him to believe, or he found research suggesting that cancer cells can travel around the bloodstream on globules of fat, or clots. So he didn't want to have any clots. And so this was around April or March that we connected. So May, June, July, August, about 4 months ago, he had a scan recently that showed that his cancer was drastically reduced and almost gone. And that made me really think about, okay, what does this mean? Like, how can I interpret this and use it to help other people? He also changed his diet. That's what got me started talking about this. He changed his diet to higher in fat and low in carbohydrates and sugars. And he started to feel a lot better right away. So we had hope that the cancer was responding favorably and shrinking, but we didn't know because you can't go just on what you feel. But feelings can be a good indicator. So it just got me thinking about studying or just trying to figure out how we can individualize our protocols and know before we get started on what might be best for us. And one of the ways that we can do that is to have to know the type of tumor that we have or the types of genetic mutations that our cancer has. And there are some drugs that are targeted toward these specific therapies or these mutations that we can use as part of our healing protocol. For some people, they will be led to use some of these pharmaceutical drugs. And unfortunately, there are negative side effects to many or most of them. And so I don't recommend it for every person, but for some people, that's what they will go with. And then supplemented with a healthy diet and lifestyle, detoxification supplements. I just saw a comment. I'll get to that in a second. And then my friend pointed out there was a study on melanoma, how a certain line of melanoma, can't remember, I want to say V600E, but that could be totally wrong. They thrive on fat or fatty acids rather than carbohydrates. So a high, even though for some people, I have another friend who has stage 4 melanoma and he's doing incredibly well. His tumors are drastically reduced. He went to Germany for treatment. He changed his diet. His diet is pretty high in fat and low in carbohydrates. He has also done some immunotherapies. He's on conventional immunotherapies now, a combination drug, and some other things that he did at the clinic in Germany, and he's doing really well. He's had some negative side effects, but he's hanging in there, and he has a great support system with his wife and lots of friends and family praying for them. And so you never know. It could be great, great results. Okay, so Terry has a question about Coley's therapy for melanoma stage 4. Coley's is a therapy that I used. It used to be mainstream treatment in the United States, and it was actually developed by the head bone cancer surgeon at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Well, it was called Memorial Hospital, I believe, back then. Now, most people refer to it as Sloan Kettering. So this doctor was treating a young woman who was the girlfriend of, I think, John Rockefeller, one of the boys, his girlfriend, and she had I think it was a sarcoma. He was a sarcoma doctor and a surgeon, so he operated, removing part of her arm, which is what he knew to do. And the cancer actually came back and it killed her, and he was devastated. So he searched the literature for people who had survived this type of cancer, and he found this one guy, I think he was a German immigrant, who lived in New York, who had gotten an infection, and his cancer went into remission. So he actually, he somehow found him at his home and interviewed the man and saw that he really had cancer and he had gone into remission, and found out that he had this, I think it's erysipelas infection, a bacterial infection that often killed people, I believe, back then. But for this man, he also had cancer, and it cured him of his cancer. So Coley, Dr. William Coley, he got the idea to start injecting people on purpose in their tumors with this erysipelas bacterium. And it actually worked for people. And his daughter, Helen Coley Knotts, after he died, I'm pretty sure it was, she went through all of her father's charts of his patients who he had treated, and there were about 500 of them, and she figured out the survival rates for her father's patients. And specifically with melanoma, 60% of the melanoma patients who had inoperable tumors survived 5 years, and 70% of those who had operable melanoma tumors survived 5 years. So that's what that's what got me and my mom, well, really my mom and then me, interested in Coley's toxins. And Coley's toxins now, or were later developed into a mixed bacterial vaccine. So they were not just the Streptococcus bacterium, which caused erysipelas infection, but also Serratia marcescens, another type of bacteria. I think one is gram positive, one is gram negative. I don't know the exact differences at the moment, but I think with those results that Dr. Coley had with melanoma, that could definitely be something that someone with stage 4 melanoma could use, hopefully effectively. But again, I would research all options. So, do you guys have any other questions? See a couple people joined, and the weather's holding off. Again, I was going to do this in my office, and now I realize that I don't have my computer charger, but there's a chance of thunderstorms, and I see some clouds. So if you want to get your questions in, now's the time to ask. So Chris Wark's Square One protocol is being aired for free right now over the next week or so. The first 4 modules have been aired already, or at least module 4 is running right now. It's on phase 2 of diet. I think that's more like long-term diet and health-wise, or if the part 1 is not working for people, let's say sometimes. Hi, Ariel. And Julie, I see your question. Sometimes people lose too much weight on the diet that Chris recommends in Square One. So he talks about adding cooked vegetables and legumes and even some animal protein. And I think personally, based on the research that I've done and seen, I think for some people, animal protein is acceptable or actually beneficial for them. I don't think typically most people, I think, it could be helpful at least in the initial stages, or if someone has severe tumor burden, to stay away from animal protein. But that is between you and your doctor, or wherever your research leads you to. Julie's question is, am I still following Gerson somewhat? The answer is yes, and I have my juice here to prove it to you. Here's my thermos. I drink about 2 cups of fresh vegetable juice every day. I do a modified detox protocol. I do 1 coffee enema per day. My diet is mostly plant-based, organic. I can actually show you a meal that I prepared for myself. These are just raw veggies with some apple cider vinegar in the bottom. I have cabbage, green cabbage, red cabbage, carrots, avocado, which is not allowed on the strict Gerson diet, I'm pretty sure. I have brewer's yeast, which was recommended to me. Yes, Julie, it's good that I'm still following it. Thanks to God. And garlic powder, beets, and that's pretty much it. Some spices. Anything else? I was doing Coley's toxins for several years. I did it even after I went into remission, because Gar Hildenbrand, who was in charge of my treatment protocol, or was a big part of it, of formulating it, he recommended it and found that my brother Thomas just joined. He observed that people who stayed on the Coley's toxins did better than people who didn't. And I think that's really important, not just about the Coley's toxins, but the diet and the lifestyle in general. If you go off of it, or it just seems that, I've heard this from multiple practitioners and people that sometimes, or it just seems that a lot of people who don't do well, some people who don't do well, don't follow their home protocol. And I mean, I could understand why. I know it's a difficult thing. For me, there was never a question about whether or not I would follow it, because I just really wanted to live. And so that was, nothing on my own effort. It was just, I guess, deep in my heart that I wanted it. And that's one thing that Chris asks in, I think it's module 1. He says, do you want to live? And I think that's a really important question for people to ask themselves. I think sometimes people, they just don't have the motivation, and therefore they just don't put in the effort, and that's why they give up and their health suffers for it. So Terry has a comment. It's interesting / sad that Blue Cross Blue Shield does not cover searches for possible skin cancers by a specialist until we actually show a sign or symptom. That's interesting. I'm not sure exactly, Terry, what you mean by that, because I know that skin checks, or are you talking about skin checks? They're not covered by your insurance, because I think for the most part, insurance covers dermatology appointments and regular skin checks. But there are other causes of skin cancer, I believe, like toxic sunscreens and poor diet, and just other factors that contribute to a suppressed immune system, like even your thoughts and attitudes, your exercise or lack thereof. Being surrounded by other people is important. Social, community. We're made for community and relationships, so I think that's really important. And just like, I mean, there's toxins everywhere in our food, in our air. There's electromagnetic, dirty electricity that's harmful to us. And so now, okay, this went pretty fast. I'm at about 8% battery, so if you have any last minute questions, get them now, and then I could do this again some other time. And if you have questions, you could think of those for next time. So I hope you're watching Square One. I had sent out a newsletter a little bit earlier, a few days ago, that said I don't agree 100% with Chris on some things, but I think the basic things we agree on, and that's why I'm a certified Square One coach and here to help anyone who's in the program, or otherwise. If you haven't purchased Square One, I'd love to help you out if you need any help. But I think Square One has a really great community. There are literally thousands of people in the Square One Facebook support group, and I just think there's a lot to gain from it, and it's at a pretty low price. And Chris is pretty active in there. He's always posting and commenting, and there are lots of smart people in there. People with different ideas, different experiences, and insights to share. So I think it's really important that we can learn from each other and have an open mind to know what's real and true, and evidence to support our beliefs. So if there are no other questions, I'm gonna hang up pretty soon, but I'm really grateful that you guys are here. Really thankful for you, and just always let me know if you have anything I can help you with, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.